President Bush was in the Midwest today supporting Republican candidates who are facing election next month, but Mr. Bush found himself campaigning for his Persian Gulf policy. Our latest poll shows a decline in support for the president's handling of the Gulf standoff, and perhaps mindful of public opinion, Mr. Bush said today the United States has a responsibility to lead the fight against Saddam Hussein. Here's ABC's John McWethy.
During a campaign speech in Des Moines, the president was interrupted by a few protesters shouting, "Bring our troops home" from Saudi Arabia.
I'll have a little say about that in a minute. You know, some people never get the word. The fight isn't about oil. The fight is about naked aggression that will not stand.
In fact, the fight is about both oil and aggression, and today the administration was saying there can be no compromises with Iraq. To all the apparent offers from Saddam Hussein that he was ready to pull out his troops in exchange for keeping some Kuwaiti land, Secretary Baker said no deal. Iraq has to give up everything it has taken, nothing less.
It's a case from our standpoint of not wanting to succumb to the siren song of a partial solution to this crisis.
And to keep up the pressure, Baker said the UN Security Council, which for the last week has focused exclusively on condemning Israel, is now ready to again go after Iraq. U.S. strategy is to get the United Nations to send food and water to the few embassies in Kuwait that are still hanging on in defiance of Iraq. There are fewer than 6 still open. If Saddam Hussein refuses, then negative world attention will again be focused on Iraq. John McWethy, ABC News, the State Department.
Still on the subject, one of Mikhail Gorbachev's close advisors has begun a trip to Rome, Paris, and Washington for talks on the Gulf standoff. Yevgeny Primakov told reporters today an Iraqi withdrawal from Kuwait was necessary and possible. Another example today of the dilemma for Jordan. Jordan said it has stopped a Jordanian charity from sending food and medicine to Iraq, but the government wants the shipment to be delivered, and so it has asked the UN Sanctions Committee for approval. The comedian Steve Martin visited the troops in Saudi Arabia today. He signed autographs for some of the soldiers, but he did not perform. The official reason we're given is that a large audience, more than 100, might be too tempting a target for somebody. Still, it was a break in the daily routine for some of the 200,000 American troops now on duty in the Gulf, a routine which still consists mostly of readiness exercises and wondering what'll happen if fighting does break out. Here's ABC's Chris Bury.
Something coming up on the horizon.
I just spotted one Amtrak.
U.S. Marines of the 3rd Battalion, 9th Regiment, up against enemy tanks driven by fellow Marines. These are war games, the kind played daily in the desert to simulate combat. But even here, it is only simulation.
You can't duplicate the shock, the fear, the hysteria, the frenzy. You can't duplicate the death and the anguish.
Senior warrant officer Chuck Whittlesey knows he was shot down twice and wounded while a helicopter gunner in Vietnam. Younger Marines often ask him about war.
They want to know how long it's going to last, or when it's going to start.
And he said, don't worry about a thing, just keep your head down and look out for your buddy.
But they do worry, especially at night, when the day's work is done and there is time to think about what might be ahead.
In terms of being nervous, hey, who isn't nervous? I mean, you know, we could be going to war tomorrow.
It's a new experience for me, and when the shooting starts, I want to be down and saving my butt.
Marines are taught to improvise, but they know there is no simulation that can prepare them for the killing.
To see someone die next to you, to see someone get shot, literally get shot next to you, or to be shot yourself, or to shoot someone, to take someone's life.
For some, the greatest unknown is not the enemy, but themselves.
The guy who thinks that he can't hack it will discover that he's got a heart of gold and a soul of steel, and the guy who thinks he's the Iron Man may discover he's not.
The longer American troops wait, the more they wonder about what war is really like and how they will cope if it comes. Chris Bury, ABC News, Saudi Arabia.
Still in the region, 2 developments to report tonight from Israel. The British Foreign Secretary Douglas Hurd has failed to persuade the Israeli government to accept a UN inquiry into the killing of 21 Palestinians in Jerusalem. The mayor of Jerusalem, Teddy Kollek, said he'd be willing to meet with UN investigators. Refusing to meet with him doesn't portray strength, said Mr. Kollek. It portrays weakness.